or the lady or the person, you know, taking the brunt of it. So as long as you all understand that. Do you have any questions at all?
I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I hope you're extremely successful. Next on the agenda.
Commission will now take up application for public amusement events to be taking place at the Song Center at UMass Lowell, 300 Martin Luther King Jr. Way. And Paige Schuyler is here as the representative for the Sanger Center. Two shows, actually under the same promoter, B Corp, the Curious George, for Friday and Saturday, April 23rd and April 24th. A number of events at that time. It's a children's program. Also a concert, Kappa is the promoter for Drake, Thursday, April 29th, 2010, from 8 p.m. to 12 midnight.
Okay, introduce yourself, please.
Paige Schaller, Marketing and Event Coordinator at the Songus Center, UMass Lowell.
Okay. You should be looking at this.
I already got my tickets.
Okay, they just wanted to make sure,
Do you
know.
need the group sales flyer?
What's Kappa?
It's a campus activities program. They actually produce and put on smaller events over at the university. And they're usually responsible for doing.
This is gonna be indoors, though.
Oh, yes.
This is
Yep.
gonna be in the, okay.
Yep.
I don't have any problem. Do you have?
No, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
His baby wouldn't talk to him if he didn't. Next.
I thought you thought Curious George was a band.
At first I did, but I knew my wife said. Really?
Commission will now take up the matter to do with an application regarding a secondhand motor vehicles license, used car dealer, Class 2, to amend the license number 628-B from a sole proprietorship to a corporation. The licensee of record is Raymond A. Pelletier, doing business as Ray's Automotive Service Center at 1585 Middlesex Street. Mr. Pelletier is requesting that his license be amended such that he will have a corporation, Ray's Automotive Service Center, Inc., Raymond A. Pelletier, President, for the same numbered address, 1585 Middlesex Street.
Introduce yourself for the record.
Raymond Pelletier, Ray's Automotive Service Center.
Okay, and nothing's being changed, Ray, except you're becoming a corporation now?
That is correct.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that. You have a good reputation.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, say yes.
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 Thank you very
Okay.
much. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
He's finally making a smart decision. He's finally doing the right thing and incorporating.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't he?
He should. Yeah, I said he's finally doing the right thing.
Okay, so what remains left on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, is the hearing on allegation of misconduct as charged by Arthur H. Ryan, Jr., the Deputy Superintendent of Police, against the licensee known as Puff Inc., Claude Charlotte, the manager, for premises at 171 Lakeview Avenue.
If you'd come up and introduce yourself, please.
Is that on here? Is that on here? What was the first thing?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. First of all, I'd like to wish you all a very happy Greek Independence Day. I hope you all took note of that fact. And the
What are you
same
doing
to-
with the yellow tie on and a brown suit?
It's got white dots in it, and it's got a blue shirt, Mr. Chairman, and I got my ribbon here.
Okay.
And all the people out in television land are the same. Wish them a happy Greek Independence Day. Anyway, George Theolides Jr., 133 Market Street, Lowell, and I'm here today representing this gentleman and his establishment with regard to the allegations. I will certainly agree to waiving the reading of the
Okay,
complaint.
if it would be all right, counsel, what I'd like to do is, I'd like to ask Captain Webb if you would be kind enough just to give a brief overview of the complaint for the listening.
Mr. Chairman, on January 23rd of this year, approximately 1:30 a.m., Officer Bowler was on patrol in the area of 161 Lakeview Avenue. While he was on patrol, he observed a fight outside of the C spot involving several females. At the same time, he observed a large group of males exit the establishment and also begin fighting, and he saw that approximately 50 people were gathered to watch the two fights. Officer Bowler got out of his cruiser to approach the scene, and he was informed by the staff at the bar that there was another fight taking place inside. Officer Bowler was forced to call for assistance to clear the street and to clear the bar, and while this disturbance was going on, he observed that at least 2 patrons were standing outside in the street drinking from beer bottles that he assumed were taken from the premises. And Officer Bowler is here today to testify if you'd like.
Thank you. Officer Bowles, why don't you come up and give your version of it?
Thank you. My name is Officer Bull of the Lowell Police. As Captain Webb read, I was on patrol the 23rd of January, approximately 1:30. I was in the area of C-Spot 171 Lakeview due to problems in the past that I've testified to before this commission regarding, and observed a group of females exit the bar. They immediately began to fight in front of the bar on the left side, which would be the Colburn Street side. During that time, a large group of males exited the bar and walked around to the other side, which would be the Lakeview Ave side, and they began to fight. At that time, I exited my cruiser, radio for assistance, notifying that I had at least 2 fights out in the street. During that time, as I was approaching the female fight, the staff member at the door advised me that there was a fight inside the establishment. And at that time, numerous backup units arrived. I separated the females that were fighting. At that time, the males fighting either separated by themselves or responding officers that separated them. I checked the inside of the bar. By the time we got in there, the fight had ended. There was still a large group inside the bar. We cleared the crowd in front of the bar, as well as the large crowd inside the bar. The determination was made to end the festivities at the bar that evening. When I initially got out of the cruiser and observed the 2 fights, I observed at least 2 of the males standing near the male fight on the Lakeview Ave side were holding green Heineken bottles. They were holding them like they still had alcoholic beverage in them because they were holding them upright. Those 2 males were in the group that exited the bar when I was first exiting my cruiser.
Okay, you were just driving by, or had you gotten a call?
I hadn't gotten a call.
You hadn't?
I had not,
Had not.
but I was stationary in that area, monitoring the area because of prior incidents.
Okay, you saw them come out of the bar, they weren't fighting coming out, they got outside and then they started fighting, you said?
That's correct. The females were definitely arguing as they were leaving the bar, but they began to physically fight almost
Okay,
immediately.
while this excitement was going on, some of the people came out, some of the male patrons came out the side door?
They
Or
came,
were they out there when you got there?
they came out the main door as I was,
Out the main door?
yep.
Okay, what door did the female patrons
They
come
all
out?
came out the same door. By way of clarification, the females, when they exited the main door, immediately went right towards the Colburn Street
Okay.
side, and the others went the other way.
All right, but they all came out the same door, so, okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. How many did you arrest?
There were no arrests. The fights were broken up successfully. Nobody wanted to press any charges. And as far as the 2 persons with the alcoholic beverages out in the street, they were long gone by the time that the 3 fights had been successfully broken up.
Let me ask you this. You said that the guys that had the bottles were part of that group of guys that came outside,
That's correct. They were in the
the
group.
left and started,
they
or
were-
they went to the right and the left and started fighting.
That's correct, Commissioner. They were in the group that came out. At the time they came out, I didn't notice any beer bottles, but they were certainly in the group that came out.
And were all 5 of them, or how many of them were there?
There were 2 people definitely that I noted with beers, and that male fight consisted of 3 or 4 people, and the female fight was 4 or 5 females.
Okay.
Okay, now, somebody came out and said to you, there's a fight inside.
The gentleman that I knew to be the staff member there didn't actually come out. He was standing in the doorway. He just yelled out that there was another fight inside.
Do you think the fight was started before you got, see, what I'm trying to determine was, should the proprietor have called, the police? In other words, if the fight broke out outside and you were right there, obviously he wouldn't make the call because somebody, he has a doorman?
Yes.
Okay, so somebody would have said, the police are here, okay. And what I'm trying to determine here was there a fight going on inside prior to your arrival that should have warranted a phone call from the police department?
My inference was, and I think it's reasonable, that when I first saw the females, they were exiting the bar. While they were exiting the bar, they were already screaming at each other. So I think the reasonable inference is something happened inside that set off the fight, because the fight happened as they were walking out, and immediately the physical fight started as immediately after they were outside the bar.
Anything?
I have
Any
no
questions?
questions. no.
Any questions? Anything you'd like to ask?
No, other than the police department did check, there was no record of a call from the licensee.
From the, right.
Let me ask, the fight that was reported inside by the doorman, how did that break up? Did that require you, or did the establishment break that up?
I was the second officer in as soon as the first two fights were broken up outside, and the fight wasn't taking place when I got inside, and the staff didn't identify the people who were fighting, so basically the entire interior was cleared, and I don't know who was fighting. I don't know if the staff broke it up or it just broke up naturally as everyone was getting pushed out the door.
And were people, you said getting pushed out the door, you said, was it, I know the report says it was 1:30, was that when they were moving everybody out?
I don't believe they were. I was in the area right at 1:30. They weren't closing at that time. They don't close at that time, obviously. And they weren't closing until there were numerous police units there to assist in clearing them. I don't believe they were closing. I think the females exited the bar and began to fight, and after that, it was just sort of a process that takes place when fights are going on outside. Everyone kind of came out, and then when the male fight started, obviously, basically most of the interior of the bar came out.
Let me ask you, again, because of the time, I know that, my understanding is that 1:30 is generally last call, and they start moving people out, and pretty much all the establishments in Lowell, somewhere between 1:45, but they try to get everybody out by 2.
That's accurate.
About how long did it take for that place to empty out?
Once we went in and spoke with the owner and the staff members, probably 10 minutes to clear the whole bar, maybe 15 max, but certainly closer to 10.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nothing else?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, I have a bunch of questions for the officer, so I don't know how you want to.
Oh, go right ahead.
Go about
I'm sorry.
doing that.
If you want to, you want to cross them?
Okay.
Actually,
First of all,
might be easier, why don't we just have the officer
Where'd you-
grab one of these seats so you got a mic,
Yeah.
and that way we can just do Q&A.
sit down and relax. Officer Bowler it is, I think, huh? How you doing?
Good, yourself?
Good. Can you kind of set the location for me a little bit? And what I mean by that is, you said you arrived with your cruiser and took sight of a few things that were going on. The first thing was the women starting to fight, right? How far, for example, from the front door was your cruiser?
Approximately 20 feet, maybe 25.
Pretty close.
Yes.
So when you got out, what was the first thing you did when you got out?
When I got out, I started to approach the females on foot. And in doing so, I radioed for assistance because I already could see the second fight.
Sorry, I missed that. In doing so,
While approaching the females on foot, I was radioing for assistance because I could already see the second fight around the corner.
you had already radioed at that point for assistance?
When I exited my cruiser,
Was this while you exited the cruiser?
yes.
Because I think you said a little while ago that you radioed the cruiser after you were told that you radioed for backup after you were told there was a problem inside.
At some point, when I exited my cruiser, I was advised by the staff that he yelled across that there was another fight inside. At some point, I could see the second fight around the corner, and radio for dispatch.
Yeah, by the way, how many people came back up?
I don't recall the exact number. It was basically the entire shift.
Do we have reports from any of these people? Isn't it standard that when there's an event like this, everybody files a report?
That's not standard, no.
Oh, it's not standard?
No.
And we have no reports?
Just the one, Counsel.
Just yours, okay. And how many people were arrested?
0.
0, okay. So now you get out of your cruiser and you go over with the women on the left-hand side of the door as you were approaching the door, or the right-hand?
That's correct, left-hand side.
The women were on the left-hand side?
Yes.
So you went over, how many feet from the front door would you say they were from the front door?
Approximately 5 feet.
5 feet. So you move over this way, and while that happens, you turn around. How did you happen? If the fight, how many people were they fighting? The 5 girls, were they fighting 1-on-1, 2-on-1, 5-on-0, or how did that fight?
It was 4 to 5 females, and they were fighting, what commonly referred to as a melee, probably.
Did they see you?
I don't know what they saw.
So they're fighting over there, you move over towards them, you didn't say anything, you didn't say, hey, break it up?
I did eventually, but as I testified to, I was observing the 2 fights, being advised by the...
No, we haven't got to the second fight yet. First fight, did you say, hey, girls, break it up?
I did eventually, but as I exited my cruiser, I was observing the 2 fights, being advised by the staff member and radioing for assistance.
This all happened in...
Subsequent to all that taking place, I'm sure I yelled at them to stop fighting.
Subsequent to you making the observation?
No,
What
subsequent
period
to
of
the things
time?
that I just
What-
testified to, making the 2 observations, being advised by the staff member and radioing for assistance.
How, from the time you arrived, see what's going on, walk over to the women, turn around at some point and see the guys fighting, obviously had to walk back to the door to talk to somebody from the establishment. How long a period of time are we talking about here?
There was no turning around, there was no walking to the door. There was only exiting my cruiser, making 2 observations. The staff member yelled across the street to me.
No, he yelled across the street from you.
Yes, I testified to that earlier.
Well, that isn't what your report said. You talk about getting there, seeing the fight on the left, fight on the right, going to the door, and the guy tells you at the door. I think if you have your report with you,
I do not.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, shall I read from the report for you, or would that help
You
to
can
refresh
read.
your memory?
My memory's not exhausted in any way, Counsel, but you can read if you so desire.
Thank you. At the time, the officer observed a fight between approximately 4 or 5, okay, thank you very much, Attorney Leahy. A fight a short distance from the females who were still, I'm sorry, I skipped the line, began, at the time, this officer observed the fight between approximately 4 to 5 females that had just left the business. You saw them leave the business?
That's correct.
Okay. So when you arrive, you see them coming out the door, they go over that way, and you see that happen. Further observed a large group of males exit that business and begin a fight a short distance from the females who were still fighting. So you're already out of your cruiser, right?
No,
Oh, I'm confused.
I apologize.
Okay, so you're still sitting in the cruiser. You've got the lights flashing, of course.
No,
No, okay. There's a fight going on over there, and there's a fight going on over there. You're sitting in your cruiser, but you don't put on your lights or anything like that?
I did not put on my lights.
Okay. And these cruisers, don't they have like 2-way public address radio systems or something like
They
that?
do have PA systems.
Yeah, did you pick up the mic and say, hey, break it up or anything like that?
No,
Okay. So now you're sitting in the cruiser, there's a fight going on over here, there's a fight going over there, and what, the guy comes to the door and says, hey, officer, there's also a fight inside?
well, first of all, your representation that I was sitting in my cruiser during these 2 fights is completely false and not consistent with what I testified to. The 2 females exited, the group of females exited the bar. In doing so, they were arguing. They began to fight. During the time they were fighting, I exited my cruiser. As I'm exiting my cruiser, the group left the bar, began to fight immediately. At that time, the staff member yelled across the street to me, that there was another fight inside, and I radioed for assistance.
Yelled across the street to you?
That's correct.
But he's at the front door, and you're 20 feet away, I think you said.
That's correct.
So you're still not near fight number 1 or fight number 2, and you're still over in your cruiser?
I had just exited my cruiser.
Okay, all right. So, then you indicate that you observed at least 50 people watching the 2 fights. How long did it take for 50 people to gather, and where did they gather from?
They were standing, when I observed them, they were all standing in front of the bar, so my inference was they came from the bar, but I did not see all of them leave. I was concentrating on the 2 fights.
Okay, so now we have, within 5 feet of the door, 5 women fighting. We got, I don't know how many guys fighting over here, and we have 50 other people that are all there at the same time, and you still haven't gotten out of the cruiser, or you did?
No. No, you're playing with timelines, Counselor.
I'm just trying to get the time straight so I know how this all happened.
You're obviously familiar with my report you have in front of you. The report does not have a specific timeline, as in 30 seconds later, a minute later, 2 minutes later.
Well, that's why I'm asking you to help me with that, so I can figure out how it all happened in that period of time.
Well, how it all happened is in the report and in my testimony. The timeline of when it actually happened is not, because it's not.
2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Must have some idea.
However long it took me to exit my cruiser and break up the first fight and then begin to approach the second fight, so probably a full minute.
Okay, so you get out of your, now, before you get, I think you just said before you get out of the cruiser, you call for backup.
No, I haven't said that. I haven't testified to that once.
I think I heard you say a minute ago you did, but let's assume you didn't.
Can I-
You see this all going on, and
There
Yes,
seems to be a
Counselor.
question, I mean, there's a question of time, which the officer that said, I believe he said it was quick. I don't know if he's ever going to give an answer better than that, and I don't know how relevant the timing is. I mean, I think the timing is quick. I'm not sure if this is going someplace, I guess that's.
well, it is going somewhere,
But it's
because
our determination up here as to what's relevant and
Right.
what's not relevant.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm bringing
We'll
to your
give you a
attention.
short
right, you-
leash, a short leash to keep
Very
going.
short, very
okay,
short.
I'll get a little shorter. on my
Independence
leash. All
Day,
right.
George.
So, now, you go out a short distance, the officer observed 50 people watching the 2 fights, exited the cruiser, at which time you were advised by staff members at the front door that the business there was another fight inside. But as I think you already told the commissioners, you don't know that. It's just from what you heard, right?
Which part is what I heard? I'm sorry.
That there was a fight you never saw the fight inside, did you?
That's correct.
That's correct. So we don't know that, other than what whoever he was at the door. How do you know, by the way, you say that a staff member, how do you know he was did you stop and ask him, who are you and what's your role or whatever?
I have several years of experience dealing with that establishment, including several weeks prior to this. I was in there for an incident and identified, well, that gentleman.
Well, no.
identified
What I
himself
want to
as a
know
staff
is
member
how you knew that gentleman was a staff member.
Because several weeks prior, I responded to an incident, and he identified himself as a staff member.
Okay. Okay. So then you exited the cruiser. This officer was able, then after that, you say you exited the cruiser, which you advised by the staff member, there's a front door. Then you say this officer was able to radio for assistance and the fights were eventually stopped. I still can't figure out when you radioed for assistance.
When I got out of my cruiser, made the 2 observations, and was advised by the staff member that there was a fight inside.
Okay. So when after that happened, how long after that, which fight did you go to first? The girls?
The female fight, I was closer to that one.
Okay. And how long did that fight continue on for?
From the time I exited my cruiser, made the observations, and radio for assistance, and approached the females, probably a minute to break up for that fight to be officially ended.
Did you see, I forgot, did you see them come out of the place before you got there?
Yes.
So what drew your attention to the place?
What drew my attention to the establishment?
What drew you to the attention of the establishment to see these women come out and start a fight?
As I testified to earlier, I was there, and actually it's written in my incident report that's in front of you. I was there because of numerous past.
So you were parked there
occurrences.
before this all happened?
I was stopped. I
You
wasn't
were
parked.
stopped. How long had you been stopped there?
I had just stopped because I was at a stop sign on
At the
Colburn Street.
stop sign? Okay, so you stopped for the stop sign, and at the same time, you were able to observe the women coming out and doing that. Okay, fine. Now, do we still know, I still haven't heard where the 50 people came from. Did they come from the bar? Were they in the neighborhood at 1:30 in the morning?
I testified earlier that they were standing in front of the bar, in front of the front door area. I did not have occasion to see all of them exit the bar, although it was my inference that they did.
Okay. And they were all out there at about the same time you stopped and observed the women coming out, et cetera?
No, they exited the bar subsequent to these two fights.
So all of the 50 came out of the bar?
George, all it would have taken would be one person. I mean, we've been through this enough, and I don't want to sound like I'm being biased on this or anything, but if you had a fight outside the bar, all they needed somebody to holler in through the door, fight, and people would have swamped out of the bar room to see the fight. You know that, and I know. We've seen it happen a million times. Let's move along. If there's a question, let's get the question.
Sure.
I understand where you're coming from, but you know what?
Okay.
I say to you right now, I mean, I do not expect a policeman to arrive on scene and start keeping track of what he does every minute. He has to react to the situation that's presented at the time and, certainly do the best he can.
I agree with you 100%.
So we don't need to, go any further with that.
I agree with you
All right.
100%. I'm just trying to figure out...
I'm trying to look at your client from the standpoint that, and I'll say it right now, the way the officer has explained it, if I don't read him wrong, he drove down the street, what he just said, stopped at a stop sign, but he saw them come out and start fighting. And then he went down, and the guys came out, and they were... This says to me that there was probably a shouting match or a cat fight, maybe in the bar, and they just all got carried away, and they went outside. And the owner, which I'm not sticking up for, but I'm trying to be realistic about it, had no idea that there was a fight going on outdoors or on the other side. But certainly, I do believe that this officer did everything that he could do to prevent anybody from getting hurt.
I'm not saying he
My
didn't.
question to you is, and you're banging away at this thing, is I want to know from your owner, what time did the fight start inside the building that he couldn't see?
Well, I don't think
Somebody yelled out to him, there's a fight inside.
I don't think there was a fight inside, and we have no evidence to prove that. Not a single person...
His own people went out and got him and
His own
told him there
people
was a
aren't
fight.
here. Does he have a single witness's name? Don't you think that that if there's such a thing going on,
Not
he
as
should
far
have
as
said,
I'm concerned. If I have an employee
Well,
that
this is
yells
what I'm-
fire, there damn well better be a fire.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm only trying to elicit evidence that's actual, not evidence that I believe this, and I contemplate that, and I guess that, and there's an awful lot of that in here. For example, I'll ask the officer another question. Tell me about the 2 bottles of beer.
What would you like to know about them?
I'd like to know how you knew those bottles came from this establishment.
I testified earlier, I believe, that I did not have specific knowledge that they came from there. The 2 gentlemen that were holding them certainly came from there. They were in the group of males that exited when the females were fighting.
You saw them come out?
Yes,
But you didn't see them come out with bottles in their hand?
that's correct.
Okay. So you have did you or anyone who may have come to back you up approach these people and say, who are you, where'd you get the bottles?
I did not, as I testified to earlier. By the time the 2 fights were broken up, and then I confirmed that the fight inside had broken up, those 2 gentlemen were not in evidence.
They were gone. So let me ask you this, I think you also said that you knew intuitively, that isn't the word intuitively, you said something else. They were holding the bottles as if they still contained beverage, and it was apparent that they left the interior of the bar with the bottles. What is there about a bottle that makes it apparent that it has something in it?
Well, the 2 gentlemen that were holding it had just left the bar and proceeded.
You saw them come out of the bar?
Once again, yes.
So you see the fight over here, the fight over there, you see these guys come out of the bar, you know 50 people came out, but you don't know who they were or whether it was 50, but you saw these 2 guys come out.
As testified to earlier, while the 4 or 5 females were fighting, a large group of males exited. Those 2 males were in that group.
Okay.
Specifically observed
So
them.
I don't want you to think I'm trying to pull a trick on you or anything like that, but there are,
Not at all, counsel.
there are glass bottles, are there not, and there are plastic bottles, right?
Yes.
And glass bottles are sold in the bars,
Yes.
and they don't sell plastic bottles in bars, do they? Not legally.
I guess not, counsel.
Okay.
I don't know.
So are you certain that neither of the bottles in question were plastic bottles that might have come from somewhere else?
They both appeared to bear Heineken labels, and they were green bottles.
So they got them in their hand, okay. Now, excuse me. Two bottles. Which one's glass and which one's plastic?
Just waiting for the sound to go by. I apologize. It appears as though the one on my right is glass. However, as testified to just a moment ago, the bottles bore Heineken labels. They were green, and the 2 gentlemen are holding them by their necks because they... Excuse me? No.
Yeah, okay. So while they were holding them, you were able to ascertain that they were or were not plastic bottles?
I never testified that I believe that they were glass or plastic. I believe that they were beer bottles because they bore Heineken labels.
You believe that they were. You don't know that for certain. So one of them might well have been this plastic bottle as opposed to this glass bottle, right?
I have no knowledge whether it's glass or plastic.
That's what I thought. Okay, so, just a few more questions, Mr. Chairman, if you'll bear with me.
We're trying to, George.
Okay. No one was arrested. No names of any witnesses. Is that, both of those accurate?
The name of the staff member, if you want to count him as a witness, who advised me that there was a fight is Frank, and his last name is Drejaj.
Not here, though.
No.
Okay. Is his name, usually the form, I think, has on it somewhere, names of witnesses?
Yes.
That's not on here.
If he was witness to a specific crime, it certainly would have been.
If he was witness, what?
If he was listed as a witness to a crime, he would have been on the report, however. This is not a criminal.
But he wasn't listed.
No.
Was that because you forgot, or is it because for some reason you didn't want his name listed, or?
Because as I just testified to, he wasn't a witness to a crime.
He was what?
He wasn't a witness to a crime that I'm filing criminal charges for, so his name wasn't necessary.
So public fighting is not a crime.
Not to the best.
Drinking in public is not a crime.
No one was charged, so it wasn't a criminal offense.
Fighting in public is not a crime. Public fighting is not, disturbing the peace is not a crime.
I believe it is.
But no arrests were made for any of those things. So
That's
it's
correct.
fair to say there were no crimes committed. That's what you just said, right?
There were no criminal charges brought in relation to anything that happened.
Okay. How long before the backup showed up?
The first unit arrived in less than a minute.
And there were no fights at that point. That's why there's no reports or testimony?
I'm sorry, when the backup units arrived, there were no fights occurring. The female fight was just ending, and the male fight appeared to still be proceeding when the backup units arrived, at least the first ones.
And you mean somebody else broke up that fight?
Yes.
But that person's not here today?
No.
Not important to the issue or not available? Don't know. Okay.
Not even my knowledge who it specifically was.
Okay. I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor, but I have some statements and issues to
Okay.
talk to the board about.
Thank
Thank you
you,
very much,
officer.
officer.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just, before we get started, I just want to know the history of Puff Inc., what the current status is right now with their license.
In terms of any previous action by the License Commission on disciplinary measures?
Right, exactly.
In terms of presently, the licensee is on a probation
Excuse
that
me,
took effect.
I'm having trouble
six-
hearing Mr. Wynn, so.
He's just having trouble.
I'm having trouble hearing you,
Oh,
Ryan,
okay.
so.
At the present time, the licensee, Puff Inc., has a suspension suspended. It was a 3-day suspension suspended that took effect February 11th. And at that time, the License Commission, in holding in abeyance those 3-day suspension, placed the licensee on a 6-month probation, which would run from the date of February 11th through to August 6th or thereabouts, 2010.
And this incident occurred on
January 23rd.
January 23rd.
23rd, yeah.
I would like to
Thank you.
point out a couple of things, if I could, just sort of like a summation, shall we say. I don't believe that there was any evidence sufficient to prove that those bottles came from the establishment, even by the officer's own testimony. So I'm not sure that we can go anywhere with that. Nor, by the way, as you gentlemen well know, the statute and the CMRs require that there be knowledge that this happened. Now, knowledge, of course, requires some bit of scienter, as they say in the law. The statute, I think, basically says they allowed that the owner, no owner shall allow beverage to be removed from the premises. We have no evidence that it was removed from that premises, nor that he allowed it to be done. Now, as far as the disturbance goes, no one will allow, that's the other charge that I think is before us here, no one will allow a disturbance to take place. There's no evidence that there was, in fact, a fight inside. And the evidence outside, I have to admit, probably, or seems to me to have been maybe some cat fights or pushing around or whatever. But certainly, and I'm well aware of the fact that the CMR doesn't require in this case, the party, the owner, to know that it's happening, but I'm asking you, under these circumstances, how the heck could he possibly know that there was a fight going on outside? And by the way, the officer never talked to my client there. No arrests made. I mean, I think you all know, I've been here through a lot of wars about fights in establishments and what was going on, and there were some pretty nasty situations. This, in my opinion, isn't even close. Now, the unfortunate thing is, yes, my client has a little bit of a history, and I understand that, and he's on probation. He indicates to me that on numerous occasions, he's tried to get a officer assigned to the premises and is always told no one's available, and that makes it very difficult for him. It doesn't surprise me because I've been here, I don't know how many times before, and we've heard the same story before. It's a very, very difficult situation. So I ask you to take those matters into consideration when you're considering the matter that's before you now, and take that into consideration with reference to the probation aspect of things. I just don't think that there's enough here to warrant any serious, there was a serious situation, but not enough to warrant any substantial punishment upon my client, and I ask you to consider that. Thank you.
If I could just make a couple comments. One, with regards to the probation, it's my understanding that he was put on probation February 11th, 2010, and this incident happened January 23rd. I'll leave that at that. With respect to the facts before you, the standard is satisfactory proof. Obviously, it's whether it's satisfactory to you. You're allowed to use reasonable inferences that, the officer explained as to what he did through very, very rigorous cross-examination. Again, I have my own thoughts on portions of it, but be that as may, it's like at the end of the day, you're left with, if a coffee pot is bubbling over, by the time it bubbles over, it's already been bubbling within before you see it explode on the outside. I think it's reasonable to infer you had 3 fights in very short order. All of this happened very quickly for Officer Bowler. I think it's hard to go from 0 to 60 like that. I think it's reasonable to infer something happened in side the establishment. I'm not willing to say, girls are fighting or a cat fight. I probably can't get away with that. But something happened inside there where 3 different fights all came in short order. And then afterwards, you have 2 individuals holding Heineken cans or Heineken bottles. I don't know if Heineken makes a plastic bottle or not. However, he puts them right in the group that came out, didn't see it at the time. Someone's responsible to be at that door. That's the owner's fault. If the owner doesn't have someone there making sure people aren't leaving, whether they're empty, full, half full, you're not supposed to leave an establishment with bottles of, with anything from the establishment. You're not supposed to do that. That it's reasonable to infer that those violations happen with regards to the 2 bottles, and that obviously it happens quickly so that, it prevents the owner from, by the time the officer's on scene, there's no point in I'll give them that there's no point to call the police when the police are already there. However, maybe a call should have been made before that, and that the officer, the reason why he's not able to write everyone's name down is he's the only one there at first. The whole point of the statute, or the regulation by this board, I believe, to call is for officer safety. So if they respond, they can respond accordingly. Here you have 1 guy, 3 fights, there are 50 people watching. There's not a lot one individual officer can do, and I would just point all of that out to this board.
Thank you. Do you want to start, Ray? You want to? Let me say what I have to say about it, okay? I think there's a preponderance of the evidence. We don't operate, when this board was established, we don't operate under the laws, actual, I think the officer did a wonderful job explaining, okay? I mean, I look at these people, his 1 guy, he goes in. It certainly is realistic to believe that the people that were in the bar flooded out. I think that Commissioner Weicker was saying it was 1:30, and normally he should have called it at 1:30. How many times has the police department been called to this facility prior to this, Jack? It was way up there.
I don't have the figures that we had a couple of weeks ago, but since from the first of this year, the first 2 months of this year, we were there 8 times.
8 times in 2 months since the first of this year. 8 times in 2 months.
Who call, out of those 8 calls, who were the call, does it say who the calls are? Are any from the establishment, or are they from neighbors complaining? I don't know if you can tell that.
I was just going to add that a couple of these notations are officer-initiated or community checks that the officer makes because there has been trouble there before, and some of these came in from outside sources. If you'd like, I can go through them one by one.
No, that's all right.
But some of those 8 were just because the officers went there because they had been there in the past? Those were officer-initiated checks?
Yes.
Okay. But they weren't in response to any? We've got all the incidents were brought to us, right?
No,
We
they
don't have
weren't.
any-
No,
we
they
don't have any
weren't. Because
incidents
when we
that-
had the,
Well,
when
I
we
mean,
had
this
the
is what-
hearing
hold on,
on
this is
the
what I'm trying
last
to get
one,
at.
well, this is what I'm trying to get
My
at.
point is this,
What happens here, Ray, and excuse me for interrupting for a second, is what's happened here is he's had a lot of, the police stopping in and talking to
why
him.
don't we find
And I
out
think
what happened?
well, I know what happened as far as this goes, because the bar is obviously going downhill. Just because the policeman goes in and says, we'll call something to his attention and not write it up, doesn't necessarily mean that there was nothing wrong. The police are not in the business of trying to drive these guys out of business. We're in the business of being police and trying to correct and help people to stay in business, but to abide by the law. And unfortunately, and I said this to this gentleman when he appeared before to us, sometimes they don't take it serious enough. Now, it certainly is practical to believe that at 1:30 in the morning, 50 patrons came out of a bar and a couple slipped out the door. And yes, he should have had a doorman, I agree wholeheartedly. But you know what? The doorman probably was pushed aside while everybody wanted to see the fight outside. And I do agree, it's reasonable to believe that people don't go out with that much anger And if he was, how, may I ask you, how far is the stop sign from the front of the door?
8, 10 feet.
Yeah, so you know, I mean, 25 feet, they walked out the door, they started fighting immediately. It wasn't like something that they went out and pushed and shoved, and all of a sudden somebody took a
Don't think
swing.
he testified to that, Mr.
Okay, so I mean, obviously they came out, you know, with a lot of anger. And then it just blew up outside, and of course, I think the idea and it's reasonable to believe that his doorman, and you know, if this is what it's gonna come down to, then, you know, we have to drag all these people in. It's reasonable to believe that his doorman panicked and hollered at him, hey, there's a fight inside. That's very I mean, I don't think the officer made
With
that
all
up.
due respect, Mr. Chairman, it's just as reasonable to believe, if we're gonna start guessing what happened, that his doormen put them out.
No, I'm
Put-
not
wait a
guessing
minute.
at anything. He's saying, you know, I mean, we're sitting here saying, first of all, he doesn't have to prove it. All he has to do is convince me.
I understand
that he
that.
honestly believes it.
I understand
and
that.
He did a pretty good job. I mean, if I got somebody on the door up at my office, you know, and they, you know,
Too much of it, Mr. Chairman, is by inference, and I believe, and I think, and whatever. And if we want to talk about reasonable to believe, it's just as reasonable to believe.
No.
Let me just finish the thought, please. It's reasonable to believe that maybe they went outside the door because they were thrown outside the place. So if you want
but he would have said that. Why didn't he get up and say, we
because
threw
he
them
was
out?
not there when it happened. If I had him there, I could have had him
Why
s-
didn't you-
say. He wasn't, he's not gonna make up a story, Mr.
No,
Chairman.
I
He
know
stands on the facts.
I know that, and
the
I'm listening
facts
to the
are-
facts.
First of all, the facts are that.
Simple to understand.
I didn't, I
All
let.
you
Mis-
have to have
I
two
let Mi-
eyes.
I let Attorney
Just
Leahy.
look at 'em.
I let Attorney Leahy go on talking about 3 fights, and there's not an iota of evidence that there was a fight inside the establishment.
Well, see, he doesn't need an iota of evidence. His own employees said there was a fight. That's good enough for me. There's nothing here that says the way this board operates is not the board. You don't have to bring me a witness or anything. All I have to do is believe. I'm not even believing the policeman. I'm believing his employee. His employee told. And obviously, this officer knows the employee personally. He knows his name and everything.
Absolutely, could have brought
So,
him, could have
that
brought
being
him
said,
right in, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to pass it over to one of your colleagues.
Could have brought him right in.
If I can just, I'll go with there's only 2. I'll take away the
Thank
third.
you.
I'll go with only 2.
Thank you,
Just
Brian.
in looking at the CAD abstract, it looks like there were 10 calls. It looks like 5 were just community response where there doesn't appear to be any activity on those 5 occasions. I can read the other ones if you want or not, but it looks like 5 of them were just community response where there's nothing. They just go there. If you want the other 5, I can give that information.
My only point in raising the issue was, has anything that's gone on that's been, any illegality has been brought to our attention at this point in time, correct?
Yes, if we get any
Okay.
reports of any illegalities, we bring them in.
All right. I guess that was my point in asking, because when I heard 8 and I knew that we'd only had this in the last hearing, I wanted to make sure that there weren't things out there that we weren't aware of. All right. I'm going to say right now, I believe everything that Officer Bowler said. I do. But I have a problem. My problem is this. The rule says there has to be a permission. For a violation, somebody has to permit a disorder, disturbance, or illegality to take place. And I don't have that. I don't have any evidence. I have evidence that maybe one happened, all right? And, you know, the fights outside don't fall into 204 CMR 205.02 or 2.05 parentheses 2 because it requires that it has to be in or on the licensed premises, and the license stops at the door, all right? They don't have a sidewalk license for alcohol consumption. If the fight happens outside on the sidewalk, it's off the licensed premises. So I can't consider the outside fights. I've said that before on other cases. Once it's outside, I'm not in favor of using doormen as vigilantes. I don't want doormen taking the law into their hands outside the premises, all right? Because we start telling them they have to, and we're gonna have a lot more problems. I think it actually makes more of a problem. I think it makes more of a problem. Now, as for the one inside, happened, didn't happen, I still don't have proof that it was permitted, all right? What I do have is that there was a report that one had started, and that by the time the police were into the establishment, it had stopped or been broken up, or we don't know what happened. But the bottom line is it doesn't seem to have been permitted to go on. So those are my concerns with respect to the disturbances. With respect to the observed bottles outside, you know, I don't disagree that he saw bottles at all. I'm not even going to disagree that that they may have had alcohol in them. All right, they may have. And I think it's probably even a pretty good inference that they came from inside to the outside. All right, I think that's a pretty fair conclusion to draw. I know we've had complaints in the past from the neighboring alcohol establishment of people parking in the parking lot, drinking beer in their cars, and then going inside. Basically what's known as pre-drinking, you know, to get the cheap buzz before you go out for the night. And I know we had to address that here about a little over a year ago. We have a little over a year ago, we had that complaint from the neighboring establishment regarding bottles in the parking lots.
The Dom Polsky Club,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
So, yeah. So I'm kind of at a loss on that. And I don't think it's an unfair inference that they came from inside, though. You know, I'm more concerned that they may have been used as weapons if there was a fight going on. But obviously they weren't, because we don't have any reports of any injuries from somebody being hit with a bottle. So that's just my thoughts at the moment.
Just in regards to the two complaints, the first one, no licensee shall allow alcoholic beverages to be removed from the licensed premises at any time. You know, they may have been removed, they may not have been removed. Like Commissioner Weicker said, we have had complaints from the neighbors in the past that there's beer bottles outside, which seem to have come from people drinking in their cars before going to your establishment. So, you know, the guys could have had bottles, but they could have come from their cars. They were in their car drinking, and they walked up to the fight, and it goes from there. So for that one, you know, I don't see a violation there. The second one, the law does say shall permit any disorder, disturbance, or illegality of any kind to take place in or on the licensed premises. We do have testimony that there was two fights outside, and we have testimony that the officer said that the bouncer said there may be a fight inside, or there was a fight inside, but we have no proof of that fight. When the officer went inside, there was no fight taking place. So I don't see how there's a violation there either. So it would be my inclination to find that there were no violations at all. But I will tell you that obviously there's something going on with this establishment to have a repeated history. And I don't know if you know anything about baseball, Mr. Shalak, but you have two strikes, and this one was another pitch right down the middle that you fouled off. Right. So you're getting close to that third strike, to being donezo, not having a business anymore.
I understand that very well.
But you had an excellent attorney today, and the officer, I have to say, had a great recollection of what happened, and I commend him for clearing out that incident. And it's great that he had no arrests, because that means he did a good job of dispersing the crowd and getting everybody out safely. But you are starting to get a reputation around here and in the city that place is a loose cannon. That building is, and you gotta clean it up, or else your license is gonna be revoked. 2, you're gonna have a lawsuit on your hands because something bad's gonna happen. And 3, you're gonna be held personally liable at some point for something that goes on because you're gonna be aware of a situation that you didn't take care of. So you got very lucky today in my eyes, and in terms of the way I'm gonna vote, but you gotta really clean up your act.
I try very hard to do a good job.
Well, it's
day.
one thing to try.
Yes.
It's another thing to do.
Okay.
So I want you to,
I will put in that
I
in
will.
action. Yes,
And
I will.
okay?
I will.
All right, I don't want to see you here again.
Okay, I'm embarrassed to be here today.
Okay.
Because I was here for a lot in February.
I know.
And I'm here again. It's very embarrassing for me.
I'm going to join in because we had a similar situation with another establishment where, due to the circumstances of what was bubbling out, there wasn't necessarily enough to find that there was a violation, but we did find that there was a nuisance created to the neighborhood, and we rolled their hours of operation back. All right, because those are completely within the discretion of this board, not reviewable by the ABCC. And if we find that you're creating a nuisance, and you've been in front of us twice here, this year,
Yes.
I'm saying third strike, and you're a nuisance. And maybe 1:30 is a bad time for you to be open until maybe, 12:30 might be better, maybe 11 might be better. If we have to go down that road, I'm inclined to do it. But like Commissioner Occasion said, you're getting a reputation for running a rough spot. And, nobody needs that.
Forewarned is forearmed, Mr.
Oh, and I understand, and look, I understand that, I understand. Details are hard to come by, all right? Police department, understaffed. We need more police officers in the city of Lowell. All right? One of my favorite eating establishments had to roll their hours back. But I'm going to say right now, it's not the job of the Lowell Police Department to handle your door security,
Absolutely.
all right?
Absolutely, sir.
And I don't want a situation where an officer responds and there's a fight going on and there are bottles outside. That's not going to end well for anybody, and I guarantee it will not end well for you. And if it comes down to it, we talked a little over a year ago about patrons drinking in parking lots and parking at the Dom Polsky and coming into your establishment and leaving trash all over the place. If that's the crowd you're attracting, then I'm going to say the burden is on you to put security out there, to sweep those lots, to not let people in if they're coming out of their cars and drinking. All right? I mean, they're not spending money in your establishment anyway, so you really don't need them anyway.
Right.
But it's getting to be a problem, and if it gets to be a neighborhood problem, maybe it just has to close earlier.
Want to make a motion? I make a motion. We had a couple of days suspension and suspend it for the rest of his probation time. So, this way here, I mean, this, for us to sit here and say, oh, well, he had a fight outside, but it wasn't on the premises. I hope everybody understands that, if some guy goes outside and he's loaded and he left, and he plows his car into a tree, well, he's not on the premises anymore, so
Right, we
so
have a
he
different
shouldn't be held
statute for that.
responsible. Well, it is a
Those are
different.
different issues.
Yeah.
But it isn't. He's still responsible for allowing these people out. There had to be, that being said, that's my motion. Okay? 2 days suspended, suspend it for 6 months. No second? What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to find that there's no violation.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say yes.
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 No.
Look, like I said, my hands are tied by the rules. All right? I can play to the cameras, I can play to the paper. All right? I can follow the rules as they're written, but I can also tell you that it's within our discretion is setting your hours. And there's no rule that covers that. If it's a problem, those are discretionary, and you have those extra hours by our good grace.
As I said, Commissioner, forewarned is forearmed, and I've certainly given the gentleman quite a lecture, and I will subsequent to our meeting based on some of the good advice that's been given to him today.
Talk to him
And I
too
thank
about, he may need additional security at his door. if
Which
people-
right? I think he's going to have to get his own. Thank you very much.
Anything else on the agenda?
Just at the matter for our next regular meeting, which is scheduled to be April the 8th, in regards to an application on file for a beer and wine package goods store license by the company known as Lowell Provision. Peter F. Doyle is the president, and the premises would be at 3 Aiken Avenue. I have arranged to have a publication of a legal notice in the paper on Friday, March 26th, which is tomorrow morning, and it's required of the applicant to notify property owners touching and any church, school, or hospital within 500 feet. So that hearing would be for the Thursday, April the 8th, 2010, at 3 o'clock in the council chamber.
I'll just put the board on notice. I think I sent you an email to this effect, Ryan, but I will be quote-unquote in the Queen's service, so to speak, during that time period. I will not be present for our next two meetings. The reserves has me gone.
Where you going?
New Jersey and Virginia.
Oh, God.
So basically,
A real,
I guess,
none of the good stuff, but, you know, I don't have anything to do with mountains and dust, so I'm not complaining.
one thing that maybe we should find out today, since the solicitor graced us with his presence, is, he didn't hear me, did he? Was, I think we asked a question about 2 months ago.
We did.
And we haven't got a response yet. I was just wondering.
Brian,
We're on the record.
you got a second, please?
A couple months ago, I think the board had asked the solicitor's office a question. Was just wondering if you had got any response to that.
The short answer is, I would advise against any such vote due to issues of both preemption and inconsistency with the state statute, which essentially says you can only do insurance for sanctions, as a sanction after a discretionary hearing for either serving to an intoxicated patron or serving a person who's under 21 if you'd previously been found in violation of that within a 24-month period. That's the short answer, that you do have discretion, you're allowed to do certain rules. However, because of the statute has been interpreted as, I forget the terminology now, but it's so omnibus that, look, it was meant to regulate on a statewide basis, and that you do have some discretion, you can do stuff, but it cannot be, neither you, the local licensing board, nor the ABCC can do anything inconsistent with the overall purpose behind the state statute. I'm putting together a formal opinion for you, but that's it in a nutshell.
Awesome.
Unless you don't need a formal opinion, if this is good enough.
We like to keep you fully employed.
Okay, I will get it.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say yes.
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 Coming home, Benjamin.